that at all. Don't you think that that bumper sticker that says the person with the dies with the most toys wins, don't you think that is just about as sad as it gets? Hey, what we really need to be espousing is that the one who dies with the most connections wins. Genuine connections, connections with other people, with critters, with nature, with ourselves, and with the holy, with that which is indefinable yet real, tangible only through its creation and our perceptions of it. How do we make these connections and why? The short answer to why is that our relationships with others is necessary in our development as human beings. A child who grows up without having human interactions is not likely to demonstrate our better nature, let alone thrive. Granted, just because you are raised by your parents doesn't mean they know what they're doing. I'm sure you've all heard the statistic that children of two-parent families are 60% better at sarcastic repartee than single-parent kids. But whether we are raised by sinners or saints, being around them is necessary to stimulate the growth of neural connection. Also, the more the merrier. Seeing lots of different faces helps the developing baby acquire facial recognition skills. It is especially beneficial if the youngins are interacting with lots of different people, and especially as it turns out, a wide degree of ethnic variety. Seeing only slight differences in the people they encounter tends to ingrain a degree of us-centrism in our minds towards the population we are raised in. Having a more diverse sample to engage with promotes a more expansive view of the variations found in the human family. I can imagine that growing up in a non-diverse situation can make the transition from a small homogeneous population to a modern metropolis where one encounters a burgeoning array of the sort of situations and people that they're just not used to, especially if that home group tends toward insularity, let alone any sort of elitism, which, sad to say, some do. Connecting remains vital to our humanity beyond our stages of early development. I recently heard reports on how kids in totally online school during the pandemic closures were often socially and emotionally set back in addition to educationally in comparison to those in hybrid settings. They missed out on those connections. Much the same has been noted in adults who went quickly from working at an office to working at home. Having others that we are in contact with can help us maintain our bearings, especially in times of tumult or grief, whether from within or without. Connections can aid in maintaining an onward, upward, outward path, a rising spiral of growth. We have so many ways to create these connections. Thing is, we have to create them ourselves. Oh, there are people we connect with because we work with them or they're neighbors. They may not be our favorites, but they are connections. And mostly it is I and I who determine the nature of these relationships. So very many ways that everyone has to set forth on their own. We may go out and do volunteer work and meet people who are aligned with our path. We may take classes that interest us. We may go out to musical performances or become politically active. We may attend church, but whatever we do, the active word is do. The active word is act. We create these personal connections actively and intentionally. We can connect people even if just for the time we are checking out at the store, or even just by smiling at passersby. We simply need to take the moment and have the intention to see that person as a person and desire to make that connection. And it can be such a lovely experience, that feeling of a chemistry, of a free-flowing vibrancy between ourselves and others. All had those conversations where no thought at all is given to passing of time until we realize how parched we are. which is why those conversations always go good in bars, but that's true. It can be said that if you know nature, you know God. It is also said, know nature, know God. Both remarks are close, but not in the bullseye. I have known folks who are quite vociferous about how much they love the outdoors with all the spirituality of a brick. And I've known devoutly spiritual people who love the city and have no real desire to be out in nature. It's truly an individual thing. Yet being out in nature, truly allowing yourself to be open to the glories that are here for us if we give them the awareness, the time, the stillness, preferably the solitude. It can be a cleansing or releasing experience. Given that opportunity, we can hear nature speak to us. Sometimes it may be with thunder and lightning or the grandeur of a torrential waterfall, but more often with the soft hoot of an owl, the swish of goose wings, the sigh of a breeze, or the happy burbling babble of a flowing brook. Soft, gentle, scarce heard, yet each a vital note in the symphony and choir with rhythm section of creation. These, like our human connections, are out there, fertile with possibility, if only we open our eyes to see them. We connect because we are human. You may know the song Wooden Ships. It opens with the line, if I smile at you, you will understand. For that is one thing everyone everywhere does in the same language. Thought that I think always bears remembering. We here at Unity connect with others as co-creating expressions of the divine. This opens a path toward that spiritual connection we are all seeking, each in our own fashion, through helping or teaching, or even by working together. If it is done with spirit, it can lead to a connection with the divine source of creation. Rumi speaks of how a person can become a doorway, a path leading to the all-knowing love, the spirit that is the foundation of all the realms in which we abide. This doorway may be right in front of us. It certainly is within each and every one of us. All that we need is to take a moment to be still, to listen, to hear the external as well as the internal notes, all of which require calm and stillness to be heard. It is a lovely path. There are others which may serve to open that door. Perhaps you've experienced the ecstatic liberation of dance, drums and bass, a pounding rhythm, opening up your psyche to the actuality of those fields that we do not see, yet are parts of our history, of our heritage, of ourselves, all available to connect us with the ineffable and sublime. It may be that God, however you may conceive of the great I Am, is rather like Rome in the days of the empire. All roads lead to Rome, was the saying in the lands. Perhaps all paths lead to God, or perhaps rather to enlightenment. That was the route taken by the hero in Hermann Hesse's retelling of the Buddha's story in Siddhartha. We have it here in the Unity Library if you haven't read it. Put briefly, young Siddhartha falls into many of the traps the world sets in his path, ultimately finding his enlightenment in service. Service to others is often a path toward connection, toward connections. It connects us to those others while it simultaneously guides us toward that divine connection that we are all in search of. We seek it in our scriptures, or we find a teacher who awakens our spirit nature, our longing for harmony, someone who guides our steps to the light. Here at Unity, we follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ without excluding other scriptures. We examine and study these because they all come with their own connections. They connect through the striving for justice, justice for the weak and powerless. The very people that Jesus walked among and healed and taught that the poorest was every bit as worthy as the most wealthy. He expressed that the seed of justice was to do to others what one would want done to oneself. Kindness, faith, and courage would be the instruments his followers would use in facing the tribulation and the adversities that he knew would be their lot. This he knew from the foreknowledge that these adversities are going to happen, that troubles come to all that live. And from the foreknowledge that beyond the darkness of all our trials and tribulations lay the light and love residing in the heart of oneness. We are taught to seek that light in each soul we encounter, every eye we make contact with, connecting us for that instant. We are taught to seek guidance from our scriptures, the gospels and testaments, the prophets of old. We find guidance in our search from sages of old and teachers of today. The question we must always be asking is, do they teach loving kindness? Are they teaching by way of example? We must ask, do they model the ideal of justice? Do they walk the walk and not just talk the talk? When Rumi speaks of people as doorways, these are people who are connected to and conscious of our divine aspects, connections which are part of our human birthright as co-creators in our space and time, connections which transcend the narrow vision imposed on us by the nature of physical existence. We are connected to the physical through our bodies. It is through our senses that we are aware of being of and in this space and time. Our quest, our grail, is what some have called the universal quest. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to step through that temple door which messiahs and prophets have pointed to so often, into space without time, time without space, meaning without language, total connection. We have within us the capacities to make these deep connections, and many possible means are available to us all. We have the disciplines of yoga, meditation, and chanting. We may pray without ceasing. We may read the mystics. We may pray the rosary or any action which serves to focus our consciousness on the divine. If one doc is good, a paradox is better. And one of those paradoxically human things is that when we really focus our attention, bring it to a point, we are found to have the potential to make that total connection, to come to the realization that it is we ourselves who are the connection between the known and the unknowable. For within each of us burns that flame imperishable, which was with God, the Creator, in the beginning. It is our connection with the divine, Mother, Father, God, Christ, and it is part of our birthright as children of the divine parent. Let us tend and stoke the godlike within us gently and with humility. Let us stoke it with kindness. We can let it shine brightly in our generosity. Let it blaze forth in our quest for true justice as we apply ourselves to the creation of a more perfect union, a more perfect world. Thank you all so very much. Blessed be. Love you.
Wow, that was great. Thank you, Charlie.
Very well.
Thank you. Yeah, a real pleasure to listen to. Very inspirational. Thank you. Thanks. I just love hearing us. You know, it's good. Good. See me if you feel the urge to give your message to our spiritual community. Your comment will welcome. Okay, is it time for another song, Pat?
Yeah, oh, there's always time for music.
Okay, we'll have those one more song and then the call for offerings.